Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss any update from Tech Primers.
In the last video, we saw what is Micrometer. In this particular video, we are going to create a Spring Boot application with Micrometer, and we are going to use the registry for Prometheus. I have configured Prometheus locally. I have used Docker containers and I am running Prometheus inside a Docker container. And what we are going to do is we are going to create a Spring Boot application with 1.5 Spring Boot version, use Micrometer and convert that into the Prometheus format. So Micrometer is going to do that for us, and we are going to use the registry for the Prometheus. So as usual, let's go to the Spring Initializer, the start.spring.io. I'm going to create a new project. Let's use com tech primers. I'll just use the group as Micrometer. Sorry. And the artifact name I'm going to provide is Micrometer, let's say Spring Boot hyphen 1.5, right? I'll just remove Prometheus. I'll just say Micrometer Spring Boot 1.5, and the dependencies which we are going to use are the Spring MVC. I also need the actuators so that the exposed endpoints can be accessed via the Spring actuators. And that's it. So we don't need anything else. We need to provide the Micrometer dependency that we will provide once we open the project in IntelliJ. So let me open the project in IntelliJ. I'll just fast forward this. So the project is open in IntelliJ, and as you know, this is the default structure which we get. So by default, what I have done is I have configured Prometheus to take the stats from the process with the port 8091. So this is the Prometheus configuration, and if you see, already I have configured Prometheus to collect information from the endpoint called 8091/Prometheus. So this is because the Spring Boot application which we are going to create, that should be running in 8091 so that Prometheus can collect information. So right now the endpoint is down, that's what this says, because our process is not up, and we are going to use the same port. So what I'll do is I'll just use the server.port configuration so that we can override the Spring Boot port. Also, I need to disable the security for the Prometheus URL. By default, the URL is secured, so I'm just going to disable that. I'll use the property called management.security.enabled as false. So this will disable the security for the Prometheus URL where our stats will be exposed. So now let's come to the POM XML where we can add the dependencies for the Micrometer. So I already have created a code for that and loaded into the live template. So, and you see, this is what I'm going to add. So what I have added is I have added the Micrometer Spring Legacy dependency for the latest version of Micrometer. So this is going to support Spring Boot 1.5 version. If you are using Spring Boot 2.0, you don't have to use the legacy one, you can use directly the Spring one. But I'm using the Spring Boot 1.5, hence I'm using the Micrometer legacy integration. Along with that, I'm going to use Prometheus to collect the information from my process. So I'm using the registry for Prometheus. If you are using Atlas or InfluxDB, you can go with the corresponding library, but the process is almost similar. It's exactly the same. So I'll just added that particular dependency here, and I don't have to configure anything to Spring Boot to say that register this or that. Spring Boot will by default do the registration because we are adding the Spring Boot actuators. Already we have added that in the dependency, right? So that will take care of um, identifying what are all the different registries which are there in the project, and it will try to register. So now let's go and create um, some configuration for the Micrometer. So I'll just create Micrometer configuration. This is just for our reference. I'm just going to create a custom meter registry customization so that we can identify that okay, this is the process which we are running. So I'll just add a configuration for that. It's just a bean so that you can add some custom configurations with which you can identify that in the Prometheus graph. So it's called meter registry customizer. The argument for that would be meter registry. So by default meter registry is created, and we need to create a meter registry. I'll just use the meter registry.config, and we can configure some common tags. So I'll just use the tag as application name as what will be the application name. Let's configure the application name as Micrometer YouTube example. So that way I know this is the current project, right? You can also add multiple common tags if you want. So I'll just add only one for now. So this will be visible in the Prometheus graph, because this information will be streamed from this particular process. This is just for our reference, so we are customizing it. Now I'll create a simple controller, a hello controller. Let's call it as a hello controller. We just want to collect the information from our application row, right? So I'm not going to concentrate on any functionality as such, so I'll just create a simple hello controller, and this is the rest controller. We are going to use the Spring MVC, so I'll just say monitor rest slash rest, and I'll create the hello, and this will return hello YouTube. Now we need to add some sort of configuration to this particular REST endpoint, because we are going to monitor this REST endpoint. So what I'm going to do is I need to monitor something about this particular REST endpoint, right? So let's collect information about this REST endpoint. So I want to get how many times this REST endpoint is hit. Let's do that. So someone has asked me in the section on how can we identify or how can we count the number of connections which are hit to a particular REST endpoint. So this is one of the way where you can collect information. There is a annotation called timed, created by Micrometer, where it will create timely information about this particular REST endpoint which we are hitting. So I'm just going to use that. Here what are the different values are, there is something called value. So the type of uh, name or a metric with which you can identify this particular REST endpoint. I'm just going to call it as tech primers dot hello dot requests, right? This is the name which I provide to this particular for collecting information about this particular REST endpoint. So we can create multiple. Let's create one first. So that is the value which I am providing. There is something called histogram. So by default the histogram is true. I wanted history information as well, so that I'll just enable and make it as true. We can also have some extra tags. So additionally what I'll do is I'll just add some extra tag so that we know what is the version. So I'll just create a version as 1.0. So this is the first version of our um, application, right? So we just let's stamp it as version 1.0. These are some additional tags which we can use while configuring or while creating dashboards out of the Prometheus data. Also there is something called percentile. I'll just mark the percentiles as 0.95 and 0.99 for now. So we have created one REST endpoint. Let's create one more so that I can show you how Prometheus is collecting information. I'll just create a hello 2. So I'll just use the same metric. Sorry, I'll just use one more metric. I'll just say hello 2, right? Hello 2 request. So that way we will be able to identify what are the different um, information about each of these, right? So literally we are monitoring two different REST endpoints with two different names, right? So that's it. I think we are set. We don't need to configure anything else. We just added a application with the name Micrometer YouTube example. So I think that's it. So let's start our application and we'll see what's happening in Prometheus. So if we go to the Prometheus UI, it collects or it scraps about the information about different JVMs. So right now there are three JVMs configured. One is about the Docker, one is about the Prometheus process in itself, and the other one is the Spring Demo, which is what we are using. So this is the port with which we are starting our application. I think by default it's using Java 9. Let me stop this guy. I'll rebuild it with Java 8 so that we don't get into issues. Let's run this. So the process is up already. Let's go and see whether it is up. Yeah, it is up. The Prometheus data is by default streamed under the path Prometheus, and let's try that. Yeah, so this is how the Prometheus information looks like, and if you see here, the application name is provided as Micrometer YouTube example. This is what we changed, right? And you can see the different types of levels and information which are there here, which will be specific to Prometheus. And also we can check for the ones which we added, right? So right now it did not collect anything about the tech primers because we did not hit any URL from this particular process. So let's hit the rest hello which we created. So this should return hello YouTube. Yeah, it returned hello YouTube. Now if I go to Prometheus data, this should give me information about tech primers hello request. Yeah, this is what we added, right? So this is the new REST endpoint which we added and asked Micrometer to collect information about, and I can see the data getting streamed. So this data should be now available in the Prometheus. Let's check the targets. Yeah, the application is detected and the state is showing as up. Now let's go to the graph and I'll just refresh this, and we should be able to see the metrics here. Yeah, I can see that. See this, right? These are the different metrics which got collected. We added a tech primers one, and we are going to use the tech primers hello request seconds count. So we are going to count the number of requests which got hit, right? I'll just do a request, and notice that there are two graphs here, one with Micrometer YouTube example, one with Micrometer service 1.5. So this Micrometer service 1.5 was something which I used some time back. So if you see here, the time um, with which I used was some time ago, and I'm using the application name as Micrometer YouTube example, which is what we did right now. So that is what we can see here, and the number of requests hit is only one right now. I'll just increase, or I'll hit again and again so that we get a graph, we get a proper graph. And also we created one more request, right? We created two rest endpoints, isn't it? We created hello 2 as well, so I'm hitting that as well parallelly so that we can see in the graph how Prometheus shows. So let me refresh. I have refreshed enough, I think. Let me go to Prometheus again, and I can see the spike here. See that I can see the spike to 6 now. I'll also increase the hello ones as well. So let's go to Prometheus again, and I'll refresh this, and I can see 6 right now. But let me see what time did it scrap. So what Prometheus does is it scraps the information from that rest endpoint every now and then. So the last scrap happened 7 seconds ago. Let's see some, yeah, some latest stat. So we should be able to see our increase, right? Yeah, it is 10 right now. So the number of requests which we were hitting, it has got increased right now, and I can see that here. So you see that the URL which we were hitting, Micrometer YouTube example, and I can see the graph rising as well. So this is how we can collect information from our process. So what we did in our code is nothing but adding Micrometer as a library, and we also added the Micrometer Prometheus dependency so that Spring Boot can by default identify that this is configured with the Prometheus, and that's what we did, right? Also we created two collector information. So for example, tech primers hello request and tech primers hello to request. I think I showed you only one. Let's see the other one. So we are collecting information about how many times this particular rest endpoint is hit. That is what we did here. We are just checking the count of the number of requests coming into this particular metric, and that metric is just configured using this particular annotation. So this is a Micrometer specific annotation. You can configure it on uh, any resource or anything. If you want to create a metric or create a gauge or a counter out of a query or caching information, you can do that customly. If you want me to do a video on that, do let me know in the comment section below. So based on the number of requests, I'll just try to do that. But in order to get things up and running and quickly test Micrometer, this is how you can do it. So you can add time, and then you will be able to collect information out of this particular resource out of the box. And as I said, we showed only one, right? Take primers, HTTP hello request. There should be one more. Yeah, see that there is one more called hello 2, and this will track the count of the second one. So this will track the count of number of hits for the second REST endpoint called hello 2. That's what we did, right? So let's execute that. Okay, this is the so this should show, yeah, see that our application name is Micrometer YouTube example, and the REST endpoint for that is REST hello 2. If you create a if I create more and more REST endpoints, right? If I create more REST endpoints with the same request, I should be able to see that as well. So let me create one more. I'll create one more called 3, but I'll register it with 2. Let's see what happens. So I created 3 now. Let me rerun this particular, and I will create 4 as well, one more. So that way we'll have a variety of REST endpoints which are configured for the same metric name. I also had the Grafana dashboard, but I don't know if it is working. So I have configured the Grafana dashboard to use the Prometheus, and it will show up in a different format. It shows up in a graphical format, but I don't know how to configure or use Grafana with Prometheus, so it was not successful that much. So let's go to the dashboard. So I already created one dashboard, I think. Where is that? I already used Prometheus. No, I don't have any dashboard right now. Okay, let's try creating a dashboard. I'll just say graph, but nothing is coming in though. So I'm not sure what I'm doing incorrectly, but it's okay. I can see the information from Prometheus itself. So this is Prometheus. That is just the UI part which you can configure to any backend. So we are using Prometheus by default has something, so that is what we are using here. So if the Spring Boot application is up, yeah, the Spring Boot application is up now. Let's hit the hello 3 and hello 4 so that we can show the information about that in our REST endpoint. So we hit 3, hello 4. I'll hit hello 4 more number of times. So let me go to the UI and I'll do a execute. See that there are 3 different colors now, right? And all the application names are same, instances are same, but if you see here the URI is different, hello 2, hello 3, hello 4, and you have the version numbers. These are just the tags for us to identify. So this is how we can see the graph information inside Prometheus. So these informations are streamed via this particular REST endpoint called 8091 Prometheus. This is where all the information is just sent to the Prometheus time series database. If you don't know about what is a time series database, do check out my video on what is the time series database. I have just mentioned, or I have just explained about that. You will get to know what is a time series database there. And Prometheus is one of the time series database, and I'm just showing you this graph using Prometheus. And how I'm running Prometheus is I'm running Prometheus as a Docker container in my laptop. So if you see here, Docker is running in my laptop, and this is the container. So the Docker container is running here, and I also have the Grafana dashboard connected to the Docker container, but I'm not sure how to use it, so I'm not showing that right now. So if I hit the REST endpoints more number of times, I should be able to see more information collected, right? But yeah, this is how you can use Micrometer. See, I can see different lines here. So these are different REST endpoints of this particular stats or a metric, right? So this is how you can use Micrometer to collect some information and then push it to Prometheus. If you see how easy was it, right? So from an application perspective, the changes were very minimal. It took some time for me to set up Prometheus locally, but that was okay. If you want me to make a video on that, do let me know. I can make a video on how to set up Prometheus locally, if that is useful. I hope you like the video. As usual, this particular code will be available in GitHub right now, so you should be able to go pull this particular code from GitHub and then use it as well for reference. If you like the video, go ahead and like it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to it. Meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much.